Welcome everyone to my Seed Guide. The Obol Squad's Heavy Machinery Specialist, Seed, is set to release soon. In this guide, I will go over Seed's kit and explain what she does, then go over her playstyle, drive disc sets, main and substats, W engines, team comps, and finally Mindscapes. Keep in mind that Seed is not released yet, and information in this video is still subject to change. And without further ado, Seed is an S-rank electric attack agent from the Obol Squad faction. Her core skill enhancement bonus will increase her base attack and crit damage. Seed is an attack agent who deviates from the usual attack agent archetype by requiring another attack agent in your squad. Having a second attack agent will buff Seed's damage and allow her to accumulate more points towards her special resource, Steel Charge. Steel Charge will allow Seed to use a special basic attack, which deals the majority of her damage. Starting with Seed's core skill, the attack agent with the highest attack in your squad will be considered as Seed's Vanguard. When the Vanguard uses their X special, the onslaught effect will become activated, increasing Seed's attack by 1000 and crit damage by 30%. It also works the other way around. When Seed uses her X special, the Vanguard gains the direct strike effect, increasing their attack by 1000 and crit damage by 30%. When both these effects are activated, both Seed's and the Vanguard's damage will be increased by 30%. All of these effects will only apply while the current agent is the active character in your squad. These effects, including the 30% damage buff, will all be immediately granted upon entering combat, allowing you to start dealing damage without having to activate these buffs. When the Vanguard or Seed consume energy as the active character, every 1 point of energy consumed will grant 0.5 Steel Charge. Steel Charge has a maximum limit of 150, and Seed will initially start with 60 points. The main way to gain Steel Charge is through consuming energy. However, you can also gain points by using Seed's ultimate, which will deal electric damage and restore 60 points. Having over 120 Steel Charge points will allow Seed to unleash her special basic attack. This special basic attack has two forms. The initial form does not consume Steel Charge points and can be activated by holding basic attack only after the fourth hit of Seed's basic attacks, X special attack, quick assist, assist follow-up, or dodge counter, in which she will deal electric damage. This attack is called Falling Petal, Heavy Strike. Only after using the initial form, Heavy Strike, can you use the second form by holding basic attack, which requires 120 Steel Charge points and deals even more damage. These two basic attacks are Seed's main source of damage, and consuming enough energy through Seed's X Special or the Vanguard's X Special is going to be an important part of Seed's gameplay loop. Seed's X special attack will allow her to ride onto Seed Senior and enter a flight mode where she will continuously deal electric damage and consume energy. Flight mode can be ended by releasing the special button or by consuming 60 energy, at which point Seed will automatically launch the first form of her special basic attack, Heavy Strike. And lastly, for Seed's faction bonus, which requires an attack agent, Seed will restore 2 energy to the Vanguard agent once every second when dealing damage. This will help your Vanguard consume more energy and therefore restore Steel Charge to Seed. Additionally, having the faction bonus will increase the crit damage of her special basic attack and ultimate by 30%. With that out of the way, Seed's skill level priority will be to first level her core skill and basic attack. Seed's basic attacks contribute to the majority of her damage through the special basic attack, Heavy Strike, and Crash Strike. Her ultimate and chain attack also contribute to damage and should also be leveled. Then you can level up Seed's X Special, followed by Assist or Dodge. Seed is a unique attack agent, mostly due to the fact that she greatly appreciates having a second attack agent in your squad. Having a second attack agent will buff both Seed's attack and crit damage, and it also works the other way around, as the second attack agent will also receive attack and crit damage buffs. The second attack agent will also help Seed restore points to her special resource, allowing her to use her special basic attack, which deals the majority of her damage and is the main source of damage that you'll be building around. Running a team with a second attack agent deviates from the normal attack squad archetype, where you'd usually have a stunner and a support, or two supports alongside your attack agent. This opens up more new and different teams to run alongside Seed, where you'd only have a single support or stun agent alongside your two attack agents. Most attack agents can potentially work alongside Seed. However, Orphie, the second new agent to come out alongside Seed, should work pretty well alongside her. Orphie is an off-field attack agent, dealing most of her damage through aftershocks and X specials. Orphie also heavily relies on energy regeneration, meaning that she'll be able to easily battery Seed's steel charge points. On top of that, Orphie can also buff attack after using her X special, which is great for Seed. Orphie is not the only agent you can use alongside Seed, as other options like Soldier Anby will be decent enough to use with her. You can even use other attack agents like Evelyn, even if they don't have great synergy, provided that both characters are properly built, as they will still be able to dish out a lot of damage. And for the last slot of Seed's team, you usually end up going for a stun agent like Trigger, or a support agent like Astra, an agent who can buff both your attack agents, as the second attack agent, like Orphie, will also be dealing a sizable portion of the team's damage. In terms of damage, Seed should be a very strong agent, possibly one of the strongest agents in the game. She might not be quite on par with Miyabi, but she definitely looks strong enough to easily clear most content. She probably won't be necessary to get, especially if you already have other damage dealers. But as usual, you should pull for whoever you like. Before going over drive disc sets, the team I'll be using in these calculations includes Seed, Trigger, and Orphie. Exact ranking could potentially differ with different teams. Keep in mind the DPS numbers shown here do not tell the full story and should not be used to compare to other characters outside of this video's context. When it comes to 4-piece drive disc sets, Seed's best in slot will be the upcoming Dawn's Bloom drive disc set. This set's 2-piece bonus will increase basic attack damage by 15%, which is great for Seed as the majority of her damage comes through her special basic attack. The 4-piece bonus will further increase basic attack damage by 20%, and after using an X special or ultimate, basic attack damage will be further increased by 20% for 25 seconds. Overall, this will be Seed's best in slot, providing a 35% basic attack damage increase, and a further 20%, which you'll be able to consistently keep after using your first X special or ultimate, thanks to its long duration. This isn't the only drive disc set you can use. Woodpecker Electro remains a strong option on attack agents, and so does Hormone Punk. The difference between these 3 sets is minimal, and you could use any of them. You can also run a 3-piece mix with Dawn's Bloom, Woodpecker Electro, or Branch and Blade Song for the crit, and Thunder Metal for the electric damage bonus. As for 2-piece sets, you can run a 2-piece crit set, 2-piece Thunder Metal, or 2-piece Pen, or even Attack, and the difference between these sets is negligible. You should pick whichever set you have the better pieces for. However, a 2-piece crit, especially a 2-piece Woodpecker Electro for the bonus 8% crit rate, can be a much better option if it helps you balance out your crit ratio. Moving on to stats, Seed's core skill grants her a lot of bonus attack, and she also gains loads of crit damage through both her core skill and core skill enhancement bonus, so she can sometimes end up needing a lot of crit rate, more so than crit damage. For your 4th partition, you'd want either crit rate or crit damage, but do keep in mind that Seed already gains a lot of crit damage through her kit, and not so much crit rate. For the 5th partition, electric damage bonus and pen ratio are both usable options, with electric damage being slightly ahead. Since Seed already gains a lot of attack, an attack 5th partition isn't as competitive as electric damage or pen ratio. And for your last partition, attack is the best option. Going for energy regen to allow you to consume more energy and restore more steel charge points isn't really worth it, as you'd just end up losing a lot of damage. For substats, you will want to prioritize crit rate and crit damage, attack, and pen. Moving on to W engines, Seed's signature W engine, Cordis Germina, is going to be her best in slot. This W engine solves Seed's lack of crit rate by providing 24% crit rate through its substat and further increases crit rate by 15% through the W engine's effect. As for the rest of the effect, 1 stack will be gained when dealing damage through a basic attack or an X special, increasing electric damage by 12.5% for 40 seconds, stacking twice. When 2 stacks are achieved, basic attack and ultimate damage will ignore 20% of enemy defense. Overall, this will be Seed's best in slot, increasing crit rate by up to 39%, electric damage by up to 25%, and providing a 20% defense ignore. Of course, this isn't the only option, as other S-rank W engines are viable, and Seed has decent A-rank options, some of her best being W engines obtainable for free. Severed Innocence is a solid option, as it gives a lot of crit damage and can stack with basic attack and special damage. It even increases electric damage. However, building Seed with this W engine can be challenging, as Seed already lacks crit rate, and this W engine just provides crit damage. Heartstring Nocturne, Myriad Eclipse, Zanshin Herb Case, Riot Suppressor, and Deep Sea Visitor are all decent stat sticks, and can definitely be used. The Brimstone, a standard S-rank W engine, can also be used with high refinement, but at its base, it just increases attack, and Seed already has plenty of attack. Cannon Rotor, the Battle Pass W engine, is a solid option as it increases crit rate and attack. However, it's not massively better than other free A-rank W engines. Marcato Desire, an event W engine, is a strong A-rank W engine on Seed, as it increases crit rate and attack when an X special or chain attack hits an enemy, with the effect further increasing when the target is affected by an attribute anomaly. Starlight Engine, an A-rank W engine that can be obtained from the W engine shop, is another strong option as it increases attack and further increases attack after triggering a quick assist or dodge counter. Street Superstar can be used, but it won't be better than Starlight Engine or Marcato Desire, since this weapon's effect increases ultimate damage based on stacks received after triggering a chain attack. This W engine could also be better if you perform 2 chain attacks on Seed instead of your other squad members when stunning an enemy. Drill Rig might sound like a good option on Seed since it increases basic attack damage, but the energy regeneration stat isn't all that useful, and maintaining good uptime on this effect could be difficult. Moving on to teams, most of the time Seed would want to have a second attack agent, and in the last slot, a support or stun agent could be used to further increase your damage. For the second attack agent, Seed's Vanguard agent, Orphie and Magus are probably going to be the best picks. Orphie deals a lot of off-field damage through her X special, contributing to a major part of the team's damage. Orphie can also provide an attack buff after using her X special, with the attack buff scaling on her energy regeneration stat, which also ties into the fact that she's usually going to be built for energy, mostly through a 6th partition energy disc, or her signature W engine, which makes her a great battery for Seed's steel charge points. Previously, running fire and electric agents would sometimes bring some negative synergy, as some enemies weak to fire might be resistant to electric and vice versa. But that shouldn't be a problem with upcoming enemies, as both Seed and Orphie are probably meant to be played together, and the game design would usually encourage that. While Orphie is probably going to be the best option for this slot, getting her for Seed is not necessary, as other agents can fulfill this role, and Seed will still be able to dish out a lot of damage. You could run other attack agents as secondary damage dealers, or use them primarily to help restore steel charge points to Seed by equipping them with a 6th partition energy disc and switching to them primarily to use their X specials, possibly dealing a bit of damage and also using their other skills, like their ultimate. Soldier Ambi should be able to fill this role, as while she might prefer to be on field to build her Aftershock attack, you could have her to just use her X specials to charge her Aftershock attack and also restore steel charge points. Soldier Ambi is also electric and can help build up the electric attribute Anomaly. Harumasa can also be played in a similar manner to Soldier Ambi, and he was also given out for free. Nekomata can also be used as the 2nd attack agent, just to use her X special to restore steel charge and ultimate to deal a bit of damage. Her M2 also increases energy generation, but it requires her to be on field, so it may not be that useful. Billy can also be used here as an A rank alternative, and so can Zhu Yuan, especially if you're playing against ether weak enemies. As for other attack agents like Evelyn or Ellen, these two agents usually want to be on field like Seed does, so there might not be a lot of great synergy there. However, you might still be able to use Ellen if you're playing against ice-weak enemies, and Evelyn should still be able to deal a lot of damage through her chain attacks, even though you might not have many opportunities to accumulate her special resource, Burning Ember Points. As for your support or stun agent, Trigger should be a great option here, as she's an electric off-field stunner who provides an unconditional stun damage multiplier, which is a unique buff that doesn't oversaturate other stats like attack. Trigger should be especially good if you have her signature W engine. Astra should also be a very strong option, as she buffs attack and increases crit damage and damage bonus. Astra also makes switching between your 2 attack agents seamless, and the quick assist spam should allow Seed to use her heavy strike attack more often. Both Astra and Trigger should be very close in overall damage, and you could go for either unit. As for other options, Jufufu should be very viable here, as she's an off-field stun agent and buffs crit damage. The bonus decibels might also be helpful. For an A rank option, Nicole should be a very strong pick. Nicole reduces enemy defense, and her ultimate also restores energy to your squad members, helping in restoring Seed's steel charge points. You could also use a stun agent like Qingyi, or a defense agent like Caesar, or even Lucy as an A rank agent. And lastly, Mindscapes. Seed's M1 will reduce the steel charge points requirement for her Crash Strike basic attack from 120 to 100. In addition, 40 points will be granted when entering the battlefield, and 60 additional points after using her ultimate. On top of that, Seed's Crash Strike basic attack will also receive a bonus 30% crit damage. Overall, Seed's M1 is a big upgrade to her damage, as it allows her to use the Crash Strike attack more often and also increases its damage. A great early Mindscape to get. As for M2, while the Besiege effect is active, where both Seed and the Vanguard get Seed's core skill buff, attacks by both agents will ignore 20% of the enemy's defense. Additionally, Seed's X special will not stop after consuming 60 energy, and you will be able to extend the X special's duration until you release special or consume 120 energy. For every 5 energy consumed this way, Crash Strike damage will be increased by 5%. This is another strong Mindscape and a decent stopping point. Both M3 and M5 are skill level increases. M4 will increase Seed's decibel generation by 10% and ultimate damage by 20%. And lastly, her M6 will increase the crit damage of her Heavy Strike basic attack, which is the hold basic attack that doesn't require steel charge points, and it will also fire off 3 additional attacks, dealing a total of 495% of attack as damage once every 3 seconds. Overall, Seed has very strong Mindscapes. Her M1 and M2 are especially strong early Mindscapes, which is not a surprise as this is usually the case with other damage dealers. But as usual, Seed is more than strong enough without any of her Mindscapes, and you don't need to get any of them. And that's all from this guide. Thank you for making it till the end, and thank you for watching.